everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond the Big Six YouTube channel. We are going to do a review of the Easter results over the last few days in the Championship, but also do a preview heading into the next few games, because there is a lot happening in the Championship. I'd argue it is the most exciting league in the world at the moment. We don't know who's going to get promoted, we don't know who's going to get in the playoffs, and we don't know who's going to get relegated. So there is lots and lots to unpack, and I don't think a lot of that will be solved over the next weekend or so. I think we are going to see a lot of things go to the wire. So let's talk about the results at the top. And we had Millwall dropping points against Norwich City at home, which, as I saw this result came in on, I think it was on Monday afternoon, they were nearly kick off. In a way, I kind of expected, because Norwich have been so good recently, but in another way, I just sort of thought, oh, for Millwall to have done all that hard work against Middlesbrough and then to lose that home game, it must have been absolutely gut-wrenching for them. And it does take the shine off that Boro win. It does also make it, because of the results this weekend, that Ipswich are by far now the most likely to go up in second place. So it was a devastating blow for Millwall to have lost that game. They can't bounce back. We'll obviously do the preview in the second half of this video, but yeah, it was disappointing for them. Norwich keep kind of trucking on though, don't they? And I bet they wish the season was like another 5 games longer, because they probably would get in the playoffs. It's too difficult for them. They've got 8 points to make up to get in. It just feels unrealistic. So for them, they've got a lot to look forward to for next season. But yeah, Millwall got to be disappointed here. Middlesbrough also dropped points against Swansea, and it's a similar story for Middlesbrough at the minute. They create a lot of sort of chances, they have a lot of shots, but they're just not clinical enough. And a win here would have made up for the defeat against Millwall, because they got beat. So if they'd won that, it would have put them on 74. It would have put more pressure on Ipswich. But yeah, for Middlesbrough, it just feels like they are treading water, and they definitely feel like the out of form side. Now, we'll talk about their games coming up, but I do have a feeling that Middlesbrough may hand out a hammering at some point coming up. So maybe Portsmouth could be the team that feel it this weekend. But very disappointing for Middlesbrough to drop points at Swansea. And then Ipswich won against Birmingham. Now, this was fortunate, because Birmingham, it looked like, had a pretty good goal disallowed in this one. But Ipswich, with that win, they're second. They've got 2 games in hand. So, you know, they're level on points with Middlesbrough and Millwall. They win the 2 games. They even get 4 points. They get themselves a big gap there heading at the final stages of the season. And with the Premier League experience that Ipswich have and the quality of their team overall, you just think they're going to find their way to sort of fall over the line. And look, I don't think Ipswich have been amazing this season, but they've just found a way. And it looks like the other 2 in this race maybe are going to end up tailing off. It feels like right now Ipswich are probably going to hold on until the end of the season and keep that second spot. But that being said, they've got extra games to play. That can be a positive, but it can also be a negative. I remember in 2018-19, my team Sunderland in League One were in the exact same sort of position as Ipswich with this amount of games to play. They had 2 games in hand, and they ended up fluffing their lines completely and finishing like 5th in League One. So it can happen, but it feels unlikely right now, and Ipswich are in the driving seat. Right, playoff race, and we will talk about Coventry as well, of course, but we'll talk about the playoff race. Southampton smashed Wrexham 5-1, and this was a game just full of so many chances. I think that would work at Wrexham. Both sides, it's probably still rattling because both sides were having a good go at it. I think 5-1 feels much more one-sided than what it really was. Both teams had a lot of chances. Southampton definitely deserved to win the game, but it probably wasn't a 5-1. But it's a statement win. I think for Wrexham, it's a real blow for them, because they probably thought if they could get a positive result, really would put them in the driver's seat. But now you feel like Southampton are going to hold on and they'll get into the playoffs. And it's a case of whether or not Wrexham can make that gap up to Hull. But that's going to be difficult. It's 4 points now. So Wrexham could well be on the outside looking in come the end of the season. It's still been a good year for them. They've still got something to fight for from now at the end of the season. But it's a hammer blow to lose 5-1 at home against Southampton. It does show the gulf. You know, if Wrexham fans were thinking, right, we can get in the playoffs and go up, the gulf in quality of a team that's playing really well in the Championship to a team that's playing pretty well, imagine what that jump's going to be like when you get the Premier League. It's massive. So, big win for Southampton. They're in the driver's seat for sure now. Elsewhere, Derby beat Stoke. They keep themselves in the battle there with 3 points off Southampton, with a worse goal difference. They're 5 points off Hull, so they're still just about hanging in there. If they can win probably 4 of their last 5 games and get a draw, they'll have a really good chance of potentially getting into the playoffs. So it was a good win for them. And for Hull, they drew against Coventry, and that was a good point, because you possibly could have expected Coventry to win that one. And yeah, that's a decent point for them. Keeps them fifth in the table. They've got a nice 4-point cushion to Wrexham, 5-point cushion to Derby, and a 10-point cushion to Norwich if we were thinking Norwich could sneak in, which I don't think they will now. So a good weekend overall for Hull and Southampton and Derby. Wrexham, of course, the biggest losers in terms of the playoff race. Now at the bottom, it was just draw City down there. Leicester, probably the biggest losers of them all. They got their Sheffield Wednesday 3-point voucher to cash in, and they didn't. They just got a draw. They did probably deserve to win the game on the balance of play. They had all sorts of chances. They couldn't get it over the line, and that just feels massive. They've now picked up, 2 points, is it, from this period over Easter where they played Preston and Sheffield Wednesday. There had to be at least 4 points. So it does feel very much like Leicester are the one that's possibly the most in trouble right now, because it just feels like they can't buy a win. And is it going to get easier than playing Preston and Sheffield Wednesday? Probably not, and they haven't been able to get the wins over the line. So really, really worried about Leicester City right now. Oxford probably would have taken a point at Portsmouth before the game, but in the manner where they get themselves 2-1 up against 10 men to then concede a late goal is a hammer blow. In a weird way, it probably gives Portsmouth more momentum, even though they were the favourites heading into the game. I think Portsmouth at the end would have been far happier with the point than Oxford, because if Oxford had won that, would have put them on 43. It would have given them a nice 2-point cushion on the bottom three, which would have been significant at this point of the season. So I think Oxford will be pretty good about that. West Brom and Blackburn drew 0-0, and I think both would have taken that at the weekend. Just get another point towards safety. West Brom in a little bit more trouble than Blackburn. West Brom, 4 points now away from the drop zone. Blackburn, they're still 6 points. I think Blackburn are probably just about out of it, and Wrexham, West Brom will probably just about get out of it as well come the end of the season, but they're still both going to be looking over their shoulders a little bit. I think Charlton are going to be all right. I don't see Leicester, Oxford and Portsmouth all picking up crazy amount of points from now at the end of the season. So I think Charlton, Sheffield United, teams like that, they are going to be fine come the end of the season. Now, we said we talk about Coventry. Well, coming up, Coventry can seal promotion on Saturday. Isn't that crazy? Coventry City could be in the Premier League in like 3 or 4 days' time. They play Sheffield Wednesday at home. You would think that they will win that. It's probably the easiest. Well, it is the easiest game of the season statistically. And they'll go up if we see Millwall and Middlesbrough drop points. I believe they are the permutations, but yeah, in their games. So Coventry, we could be welcoming them to the Premier League. It was a good point for them against Hull City. And I think one of the things for Coventry is if they can get up now, they're actually ahead of the game compared to the team scrapping at the bottom of the Premier League. So whoever stays up out of Leeds, Forest, West Ham, Tottenham, they don't know their future. Coventry can begin to really start planning and get ahead with their recruitment and figure out what they're going to do next season. So that's really, really exciting for their fans. It should be a very, very good day for them against Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday. You'd think they will really put on a show against a team that are desperately struggling. Just won 1 game all season. They've been statistically the worst team in Championship history. So it should be a good day for Coventry, and they've earned that. They've been the best team in the Championship, the most consistent team in the Championship this season, and Frank Lampard has been magnificent in getting them to that position, especially after losing the playoff semi-final in the cruel way that they did against Sunderland last season. To bounce back from that and, seemingly win the title with these and get promoted with these, they deserve a lot of credit. So Coventry, we're just going to keep that champagne on ice until Saturday evening, but I think we could be celebrating a promotion to the Premier League for them. Now, the other games, Millwall, they are at West Brom on Friday night. I mean, that looks like a tricky game. West Brom, of course, fighting for their lives at the bottom. They picked up some good results recently at home as well. Millwall, although a very good away team, and I just wonder if getting away from the den, going away from home, maybe takes the pressure off them a little bit going there. They'll be able to sit in for straight West Brom and then hit them on the break. But it's hard to pick out a winner on that. I think I'd probably side though. I think Millwall will probably just edge a close game, and I do trust Alex Neil largely in these scenarios to get his teams over the line. So I think Millwall probably do beat West Brom on Friday night. Ipswich have got a really hard game at Norwich, and I don't fancy them at all here. I think Norwich are absolutely flying largely. They've been brilliant since Philippe Clement came in, and they'll be targeting this game. They're thinking, right, we can really, really hurt our rivals. So Norwich, I mean, if you look at their form in the last 10. They've won 7 of their last 10 games. Ipswich have won 6 of the last 10. So I think Ipswich are in bad form, but I just think going to Carrow Road, the atmosphere that'll be there, I think Norwich might just put the cat amongst the pigeons. And if Millwall and Middlesbrough can win their games, it really, really opens things back up in the top 2 race. We've got Boro hosting Portsmouth. Now, can Portsmouth sort of do that defensive blueprint that we saw Charlton do at Middlesbrough a few weeks ago and get a win? That's obviously going to be the plan that they'll try and follow. But I have a feeling that Boro are going to give somebody a shoe in. I mentioned it at the start of the video, but I think Middlesbrough might go here and really put a few past Portsmouth here and really, really, get a statement win, because they've been creating so many shots and shooting opportunities. They haven't been taking them, but at some point that luck's going to turn. I just have a feeling that might be this weekend. So I think Middlesbrough could be the big winners, especially if Millwall drop points at West Brom. That looks like a tricky game. And if Ipswich lose at Norwich, Middlesbrough could really get themselves thriving in this promotion race and really open it back up. Right now it looks like it's sure that Ipswich will go up, but after this weekend, who knows where we'll be. We've also got Southampton. They're playing Derby. It's such a big 6-pointer. If Derby can win that game at Southampton, then that really throws things up in the air. We'll put Derby level with Southampton. Then if you've got Wrexham winning at Birmingham on, I think, Sunday afternoon, who knows? At that point, it's going to be really, really tight. And then if Hull don't win at Sheffield United, it really starts to get everyone close together in that playoff race. Now, of course, it could work the other way. Southampton could win, Hull could win, Wrexham could drop points, and then it almost looks done. So this feels like a pivotal weekend in the playoff race where we could either see it close up even more or it almost be settled come the end of play. Now, at the bottom, in terms of what I think will happen this weekend, I think Southampton will beat Derby. I think that Hull probably get a draw at Sheffield United, and I think Wrexham probably go to Birmingham and get a win. I've not been impressed really with Birmingham all that much recently. They did lose their last home game as well against Blackburn. I think their manager feels like he's teetering on the edge, so I do fancy Wrexham to get a win there. Now at the bottom, Oxford host Watford. Now Watford currently in the last 6 games are sat 19th in the form table. Are we getting like beachy vibes from them? I think Oxford are obviously going to be well up for this one. I do fancy them to get a positive result here. Been really impressed with Oxford recently. And I think at home they've got a good chance. So I fancy Oxford to get a win against Watford here. Leicester play Swansea. Now Swansea, are we getting beachy vibes from them? I'm not sure. But then Preston, who are a team that we've also been getting a lot of beachy vibes from, got a draw at Leicester. So in a way, I feel like I can't see Leicester winning games. You can't beat Sheffield Wednesday away. Can you beat Swansea at home? I'm not sure. So I wonder if that one's going to end up being maybe a draw or a Swansea win, which would make it a very good weekend for an Oxford fan. Portsmouth go to Boro. I've already talked about that one. I think Middlesbrough will win that one quite comfortably. I just have a feeling, especially since Portsmouth lost 6-1 at QPR. Clip this one, though, if you're a Portsmouth fan and you do win at the weekend. Blackburn are away at Stoke. Stoke, their manager wasn't happy, was he, Mark Robbins, this past weekend against Derby. Blackburn, can they go there and get a positive result? They did win recently away at Birmingham, but I think they'll probably take a draw. I think a draw feels about right. But yeah, Stoke not great in the form table either. So I wouldn't be shocked if Michael O'Neill's team went there and got a result. And then West Brom Millwall, I've already said I fancy Millwall to get the win here. So if those results were to happen, it would create chaos down at the bottom, and that's what we're here for. We're here for more and more chaos, because that's what we want, especially as content creators. So let me know what you think will happen this weekend in the Championship. I'll be curious to know. And yeah, we'll catch you again for another video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you soon.